the meeting to order and determine a quorum here. So Kevin Lyons.
Here.
Mark Sassway.
Here.
Roxana Dunn here. Chris Wood.
Here.
Denise Davis.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. It only takes 3, so we have a fat quorum, as we would like to say. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and let me ask Heidi to open it for us. The flag is in that corner over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If only. Okay. All right, we open each meeting with general public comment. We also have an opportunity at the end of the meeting for general public comment. If you would like to make a comment, we will start with the people in the room and then we'll go to people online. So people online, you would have to raise your hand mechanically, and people in the room also mechanically, but a different kind. Anyway, you have 3 minutes and come on up. What is
Aaron?
Aaron, yes, Aaron Vanderpool. Okay. Oh, and state your name first too.
Ready?
Yes.
All right, my name's Aaron Vanderpool. I'm here because I'd like to propose a safety feature for Incline Village. I sent the board an email about an hour ago, including a picture of a group of about 12 tourists taking a bicycle down Southwood here to the stoplight. And it dawned on me that I've seen this happen a lot last year, where this, like a group of families is trying to take bicycles between Incline Village and Crystal Bay. And at nighttime, I've encountered this as well. And I have a feeling that it's due to the bicycle rental shop right down the street on Southwood here. And I would like to propose that at the intersection of Lakeshore and Highway 28 down here, that we put some sort of sign, and we probably have to go through NDOT to get it on 28, but just some sort of warning sign that lets people know that what they're getting themselves into. Like there's no bike lane for the next 2 miles. You know, my vision, I don't know if it'd be good with NDOT, but I've traveled internationally and I feel like English is not their first language, a lot of the families that come here. And so like an internationally recognized sign, like a picture of a bicycle with like an exclamation point, like the next 2 miles. Yeah. Yes. But you know, something, just something, because as far as I know, it's not illegal to take a bicycle there. And I've seen street bicycles do it, and they know what they're getting themselves into. But I hate seeing families along there. So I really would like to see a sign that just warns people at that last exit before we leave Incline, going that direction, and possibly another sign coming the other way around the Crystal Bay Post Office. I think we've put in those crosswalks through town where you hit the button and the lights flash. And I think those have been a big improvement. And I think this would be small in comparison of cost and what it would take. And I really do think it's going to save a life eventually. Because, last year, all of a sudden, it's like there's so many people riding their bicycle on this highway that I've never seen this happen before. It just appeared last week. And I know the bike rental shops are they're growing their businesses right now. So yeah, this is something that, I don't know if I would necessarily want to spearhead it. But yeah, I'd be welcome to, look at the site and maybe suggest some signage and talk to a couple people.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, this is exiting Incline Village going south on 28.
Yeah.
Exiting Incline Village going west on 28 to Crystal Bay.
Yeah.
Both of those directions.
Yeah, right. There's the roundabout, but then you go down the roundabout and I feel like, it's easy for a tourist to maybe, get in directions from to Sand Harbor, and they just go down to Lakeshore, and instead of turning left, they turn right, and they think they're going to Sand Harbor because they've never been here before. And then maybe they just get themselves into trouble getting out there on the side of the road.
Appreciate that. So Helen Neff and I have been in discussions with Kevin, somebody from NDOT about a number of things, and I'll try to remember to bring that up next time we have an opportunity. In the meantime, if you think it's the Southwood Bike Shop, the guy's name is Ted, go by and say, Ted, warn your people.
You know, I feel like they do that, but you know, that's one step, but I think this would be another huge step.
Great. All right, thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, sir.
I'm Harry Swenson. I live up on Tyner Way, and I want to introduce myself. I'm the new Advisory Planning Commission nominee or selection from Washoe County, and I want to make sure for the Advisory Planning Commission for the TRPA. Okay, wanted to make sure people saw my face here, knew to reach out to me if you've got something, something that is coming up, a policy or other type of thing for that the TRP is handling, and you'd like to have somebody tell somebody about it, that you're concerned or other things. So that my name's Harry Swenson, and you'll see me around. Feel free to stop me and talk to me. I have another thing. This is something completely different that I want to talk about. I was at Conversation Cafe. I don't know if a lot of you know about Conversation Cafe this last week. General Manager Harrison was there from IVGID to tell us that IVGID is not responsible for senior activities. So they are pulling the plug or are planning to pull the plug on a lot of the senior activities because, we questioned him, a lot of seniors in that room and had discussions with them. We said, why are you really doing that? And the 2 points he made was, number one, IVGID is still in pretty bad financial straits. And two, that IVGID as an agency is not responsible for senior activities, and they are costing too much to IVGID, and it's on the cost-cutting programs. The most concerning one that I have, and he said the most expensive one too, is the senior rides down to that's costing them way too much money, and they wish to, he said they're evaluating it right now, but people, he said in his term, what he did voice particularly is that go tell Washoe County. They're the ones that are responsible for senior activities, senior groups. Gerlach's got their own senior center. All this other stuff. So I just wanted to let the commission here or the committee here know that and bring that up as a topic in your future deliberations. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Harry, we the CAB trips all over TRPA on a regular basis.
Oh, you do. That's why I'm so glad you guys encourage them to.
This would be a really good source of information. I encourage you to watch the agendas and come when the topics count. All right. Anyone else in the room with general public comment? General public. All right. Denise Davis.
Denise Davis, citizen. The Washoe County Senior Advisory Committee just met last week. So if you would like to voice your concerns and requests for senior activities, I would urge you to, first of all, contact people on the Senior Advisory Committee. And secondly, contact your county commissioner. That's it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Online, Rhonda Tyser.
Hi, Rhonda Tyser, Incline resident. For a long time, I sided with those who insisted that any new structures built for housing should be specifically limited by deed to those buyers or renters who work in the area and can't afford to live here. But I realize that if the problem is there is not enough housing, not just that there isn't enough affordable housing, that any housing construction will be a benefit as long as it's limited to people who work in the area. Opening up housing for middle income buyers, such as teachers and firemen, can happen in several ways. One is that housing is built and restricted to those purchasers, but another way is to just increase the housing supply and let the market function. So I don't have a problem with TRPA's category of achievable housing. The problem with housing in IVCB is that it is expensive for several reasons, not the least of which is the supply is limited. Consequently, anything that increases supply will be helpful, and that brings us back to second homes and short-term rentals. The single easiest and quickest way to increase housing supply is to restrict STRs in residential areas. Restrict STRs to town centers and multi-unit condos, and give a huge tax break to condo owners who are willing to change their units from STRs to long-term rental housing. That would go a long way. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda. And stay tuned because we'll be discussing that very thing, I think. All right, anyone else online with general public comments tonight? Okay, do we have, is Alexis online? I don't see her. Alexandra?
No, I don't see her online currently.
Okay. All right, so then we go to cab member announcements. And so I would like to start off with a little introduction for what we're doing tonight, but also a topic that we will not be specifically discussing tonight, but is definitely adjacent. So, well, first of all, let me announce that Diane Becker, who has been on the cab for a number of years and was cab chair for 3 years, is retiring from the cab. She's moving to Reno, actually, literally as we speak, she's driving up there. She and her husband both have medical issues that they find are a lot easier to address living in Reno. So we're losing one of our great contributors. I wanted her to be here tonight so we could applaud her in person, but she will be coming at a future one. Because of that, we are now graduating, promoting, I don't know the word, the right verb, but Mark Sassway, who was our senior, what do we call you? Alternate, thank you. A senior alternate is now officially going to be on the cab and taking things seriously now. Okay. And then Jody Wright, who's over here, she's doing dual work tonight. She's our other alternate, and she's on the panel tonight. So Jody will move up into the, I'm just making up this term, but the senior alternate position. Yeah, there's a pay raise. It's a 10% pay raise. Okay, that also means that we now have an opening for another position on the cab. So if you are interested, you would have to go to the website, to the, how do they do that, Alexandra? Where's the application?
It's on the Incline Village cab website. It says application on there, but I can also show you during my announcements as well. Okay,
so she'll show us, she's going to do a little show and tell later in the meeting.
I found it pretty.
Okay. So the other topic I wanted to talk, yes, what?
Cab announcements.
I'm not, I'm still going. It's me. Okay. I wanted to give you all that I know about what's happening with the old elementary school, because I described this to somebody at RHA. I feel like I'm the poor kid outside the baseball field trying to watch the game through a knothole. And I think that's kind of how we've been getting news here. So let me tell you all that I know. And I'll let you know whether it's firsthand, secondhand, thirdhand, strictly rumor, et cetera.
Not all.
So the first one is I had a phone call with Dr. Hillary Lopez, who is the executive director of Reno Housing Authority. I spoke with her because one of the things that might happen to the old elementary school is that the Tahoe Transportation District that now owns that land might be able to transfer it to Reno Housing so that they can take it over and build workforce housing on it, our topic tonight. However, as Dr. Lopez indicated, TTD is still in charge because they still own the land. So it's still, the ball is mostly in their court. Okay, so this is a little secondhand, third hand. What I have heard is that they need to check with the Federal Transportation Administration, which is the federal administrative whatever that gave them the grant to purchase that land in the first place. They have to go back to them and say, we're not going to build a mobility hub on there, on that lot. We are looking at it for good public things like housing. What, you know, can we still use some of this grant money? And some of the grant money needs to be used to demolish the old elementary school. Anybody want to guess how much that costs?
Hospitals.
$2 million. And then there's also some hazmat stuff that needs to be done to restore that property. So they're going back to see if they can use some of the money for that. And then maybe, and now I'm totally making this up out of my own head, but I think there's a possibility that with workforce housing there, they would want a small kind of hub, at least a good bus stop. I think my understanding from listening to people for the last several years about the objections to the mobility hub was the main objection was a large parking lot. So hopefully they'll be moving away from that. Reno Housing is interested and has received approval from their legal staff at their February board meeting to proceed with investigation. Beyond that, they can't really discuss too much. Their next board meeting is tomorrow, and my understanding is that this will definitely be a topic on the agenda and that they might be saying go ahead, but I'm not sure if that's where we are yet, given that we're still waiting for TTD to come back. If you're interested in giving your input, I went to the RHA board meeting last month, and I spoke, and then also in this conversation with Dr. Lopez, I indicated that that a lot of people in Incline Village are very supportive of the notion of workforce housing. And I think that came as a little bit of a surprise. So if more people are willing to say, yes, we need it, we want it, we support it, then, you know, that would be good. The meeting room tomorrow is a small little room. So it's not one of these rooms where you can have lots of public comment. But if you would like to send an email, send it to hlopez@renoha.org. And I would keep it really short because the meeting is tomorrow. So she's not going to have time to read much more than I support it. But you could say that. Just FYI, Reno Housing currently manages 14 properties with 1,400 units. So a project of this size is certainly within their purview. All right, now, as far as Washoe County is concerned, I talked with Kat Oakley, who is in the planning side. So Washoe County divides into two parts, and they have two, what do you call yourself? He left. The two big divisions are planning, which covers safety and that kind of stuff. And that's Dave Solaro, whom we meet with a lot. And the other side was covered by Kate Thomas, who has now been promoted to county manager and is now being taken over by Ryan Gustafson. And so I'm not sure. I know Ryan is new to this position. I got the impression he was maybe new to Washoe County, but I'm not sure. He's not new. He's been around. Okay. Anyway, so we'll be dealing with the other side of the Washoe County workforce when we're talking with them about the old elementary school. One last thing is that, and this is secondhand now, Linda Offerdahl speaking with Kate Thomas, who is the new Washoe County manager. Kate Thomas said that she is sending a request for permission to develop housing on the OES on behalf of the Reno Housing Authority. She's sending that to the Federal Housing Administration. So we've got two federal things that we're having to deal with before decisions are final. TTD will be reviewing this at their April 1st meeting. If you are interested, I highly recommend that you look them up online and possibly attend. You can either attend in person or online. I'm sorry, what? Okay. I don't know if anyone has looked into the earthquake fault and the hazardous material stuff. I hope somebody's doing that before we get too far down the line. But anyway, that is an outstanding issue associated with this. I do know of one developer who specializes in affordable housing, who said he has worked with Reno Housing Authority before, and they have already drafted some plans that would build 130 units. So I still think it's a little bit of a long shot, but we're seeing movement, and I'm really glad to see that. Okay. All right, that's all I had. Yes, questions?
Email address again?
Yes, it's H. Lopez at renoha.org. Yeah. Because I think, we do give off the impression that we're hoity-toity down here, and I don't think everybody in Reno recognizes. Hoity-toity, that's an official word. I don't think everybody in Reno recognizes that we are supportive of this. Okay, so Denise.
Yes. Can you move the cube down just a little bit?
Yeah. Apparently not.
I'll go stand behind you.
On this smoothie.
Yeah.
Is it stuck on something?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, let me add one more thing. We have housing here tonight, but in Heidi McKendry here, but she's going to talk about the services they're already providing. So it's really kind of off limits to talk with her about the housing. If you want to talk with me more after the meeting or whatever, I'll happily stay around. But I pretty much shared with you everything I've seen through the knothole. So that's it.
Good job summarizing.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to remind everyone that the Washoe County Swift Exit Evacuation Study closes at 4:59 p.m. March 30th, which is next Monday. So please get your comments in regarding the evacuation study. And Tahoe Forest Health System is doing a survey online and in person about the needs of our community as far as the health system. And so if you want more information, you can go to TFHD, as in Tahoe Forest Health District.com /north. And that will give you more information. And Alexander, are you going to explain about the new voting system tryout tomorrow?
Ooh.
Hi, Alexandra Wilson for the record. I didn't have a statement prepared for that, but I can look it up in the meantime and provide details if I have them available.
I can just tell them, you can test out the new ballot marking system tomorrow from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Registrar of Voters new warehouse facility at 6550 Longley Lane, number 145. All right.
This is board announcements, so we're not taking that. Would we take questions?
No.
Okay. All right, we're continuing with board announcements. So, Chris.
Yeah, so Chris Wood for the Citizens Advisory Board, and I will try not to be boring. Okay, the TRPA Board of Governors meets on Wednesday this week, and they will be looking at approving the improvements at the beach house and the 2 guard shacks that are beaches here in Incline Village. And just so you know, the improvement is an upgrade from the 1,300 square feet of existing buildings to 4,598 square feet. So apparently Incline's got money for that, but not for our seniors, I guess.
$7 million bathroom.
Uh,
Real numbers, by the way. Or 1,400 square foot bathroom.
3 more before I run out my time here. April 1, Roxanne's already brought us up to speed on that, which is the Tahoe Transportation District. The agenda will be released on the 25th, which is Friday this week. So check that out. April 8 is the next thing I want to tell you about. The Advisory Planning Commission with our new representative, Harry Swenson, will be meeting, and they don't have an agenda out yet. And so you'll have to keep an eye on that yourself by going to the TRPA website. And finally, on April 10, the Nevada Interim Legislative Committee for the Oversight of TRPA will have its 3rd session, which is going through, has 6 scheduled sessions going through what is TRPA up to. It's very informative. It gets into insurance issues for wildfire and other things like that. This particular Oversight Committee meeting has some very generic descriptions, which I didn't list in my notes here, but you can again go to that website for the legislature's Oversight Committee on TRPA. And that's it.
Okay, anyone else on the board with board announcements? Okay,
Roxana,
yes,
I did message the individual who had his hand raised, Robert, and he had said that he wanted to make a clarifying statement because 80% are 60% AMI or less, which is 10% of 0 to 30%. He said that is not workforce housing and it is in the RHA board packet.
one more time.
80% are 60% AMI or less, of which 10% is 0 to 30%. That he noted that that's not for workforce housing, and that it's listed in the RHA board packet.
Alexander, Robert Harrison is our IVGID GM.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can clarify a little bit regarding.
So maybe,
Terminology.
he could.
Okay, so,
There's lots of terminology, workforce housing versus affordable housing. Really, when you look at housing in general, what you're looking at is what % of area median income is that housing serving? And so when you're looking at probably development that would serve those.
Sorry.
So when you're looking at housing, and I think that's what Robert was probably referring to, depending on the tools used or the financing used to build that type of housing, that kind of dictates what area median income those units will support. And there are restrictions on that. And there's a lot of different tools that can be used to develop that type of housing. And so that kind of dictates. Some of those units could be 80% of area median income, meaning the person who moved in there or that household would be needing to earn 80% or less of the area median income. Some of those units would be 60, some of them could be 0 to 30%. Okay. And so just depending on that individual's household income would depend on which unit they could qualify for.
all right, great. So, Robert, I hope that corresponds with your understanding and that's helpful. I expect we'll get to argue about what levels we would put in the OES site for the rest of the 2020s if it comes to pass. And anyone who wants to actually take a money bet on that, I will take a money bet. All right. That's any other CAB member announcements? All right. So we're moving to public safety. Thank you. That's very good. I need the cues. And I asked them to be short, and apparently they really took me at my word.
Summers.
Oh, Ryan Summers, great. Okay, we have Chief Summers from the fire. Oh, by the way, that was Heidi McKendry from Reno Housing that gave that explanation for the minutes. Okay, go ahead. Ryan, go ahead.
Good evening, Ryan Summers for the record, North Lake Dall Fire. So NDF is planning on possibly a prescribed burn next week in the Tunnel Creek area. We'll be helping with that. Getting ready for summer activities. It's a little early in my opinion, but we're moving forward with our seasonal help on the fuel side. And then my assistant chief or the district assistant chief retired about a month ago, so we have an interim or provisional battalion chief in there right now to see how that goes. And that's all I have to report for tonight because I was told to make it brief.
Are you doing more prescribed, this is Roxana, are you doing more prescribed burns this spring?
Tentatively right now, we are not going to, and I'll be honest, it's very questionable if NDF can pull theirs off next week because we are drier than we should be this time of year.
Okay. All right, well, you put 3 new burn piles in the lot next to my house, so I'm interested. All right, thank you, Chief Summers. Do we have anybody from the Sheriff's Department?
I did not find anyone.
Okay, no one from Sheriff. So we are to our main topic then, which is local housing assistance. And I am thrilled to see the attendance tonight online and in the room. There is a lot of interest in this, I think, in our community from different angles. And it's something that we really need to work together to address. I've been reading a book about housing shortage, and it used this very excellent analogy. It said our current housing situation is a very cruel game of musical chairs. And I thought, yeah, that describes a lot of the problem, and we just need more housing. So I'm sure that number one on everybody's list of impediments is the fact that there's just not a lot of housing available. When I put together this, I thought that Reno Housing Authority was an arm of the county and therefore had a bit of an obligation to help us with services down here. I've since learned that no, they are independent, so they're sort of the same as our other representatives tonight, but they've been in this business for 78 years, 79, 1945 or 7?
43.
43, okay, so 82 years, 82 or 3. So they've been at it a long time, so I'm still asking them to go last, but now instead of from obligation, from experience. The folks that we have pulled together for our panel tonight, we have on the far left is Heidi McKendry, who is, you are the
Executive Director.
Deputy Executive Director, so you're right under Dr. Lopez. And I asked her how long she's been working on housing and stuff, and she said 20 years. And I said, wow. And she said, when the housing bug bites you, you just can't let go. So she's a real trooper in this regard, and has been a delight to work with, by the way, on this and some other things. To her, well, to my right is Jody Wright, who is one of our CAB members and joined us about 6 months or 9 months ago.
7 months ago.
7 months ago. And is a real addition because housing has been a real, one of the key focus topics that we've been looking at over the last several years. Jody is the head of Tahoe Family Solutions. And you have been in that position for how long?
Just over a year.
Just over a year, okay. And then we have Dick Jackson. I always want to say Jack Dixon and get that wrong, but I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Dick Jackson is with the Sally Fund that is run somehow, and you'll explain this to us, under St. Patrick's Episcopal Church, and helps at least get money. I'm not sure. We'll see what you do when you explain it to us. We have Teresa, what was her last name? Crimmins, who is about to be promoted, right? Into the, I'm going to say director? Executive director, always, because you get more pay for that. Of the Sierra Community House, which has been working in North Tahoe. Well, you'll explain it, but has been at this for quite a few years as well. And then finally on the far right here is Chase Janvrin, who is the head?
Director of Operations.
Director of Operations, the Executive Director of Operations. Placemate, which is a program that has had a brief history here, or a brief tenure here in Incline Village, but is an interesting approach. And so we'll be interested in hearing him. I'm going to start with Jody Wright. As I said, I'm asking Reno Housing to go last and to kind of respond. Now, normally when we have more than one speaker, we go over in time and people complain. So I'm really putting the dice out there when I have 5 speakers. So I have asked them all to keep it to 5 minutes or less. Less would be fine. I've given them 3 slides each to show. So I need to keep me short. What? Yes. Okay. And yes, give your name when you come.
I absolutely.
So come on
up to
the podium. Is that?
Yeah, speak.
Forever times.
Easier to reach.
Yeah, all right. Okay, as Roxana was saying, my name is Jody Wright and I'm the executive director. I added executive director to Tahoe Family Solutions. And I've been in that role for about 13, 14 months. I don't think I'm going to tell you anything really new tonight, but I'm going to tell you what we're hearing and seeing very consistently. And I think it'll resonate. Quick summary of the services that we provide. Mental health and psychiatric care and med management at no cost for anyone who needs that. Our Family Resource Center is kind of our front door program where you come in and I don't know what to do, who can I talk to? And we'll talk to anybody and help them navigate complex systems and whatever we can do to help. We provide emergency financial assistance, and that primarily is support in rent and power, energy bills. And then we have youth programs, which are programs designed specifically for under-resourced kids here in the community that are struggling on any number of levels. And that includes, we have multiple programs and we keep adding to them. So that's pretty much that slide. Okay.
Okay.
Next slide. So the reoccurring challenges that we're seeing, and the average rent in Incline Village is $3,500 per month. The average wage, and that is not the median income, but your average paycheck is at $20.48 an hour. So do the math. I mean, how many jobs do you have to work to be able to pay $3,500 a rent a month? So that is just right there, cost prohibitive. Another challenge that we keep seeing is the sudden loss of housing. Like you'll have it and you're set and then something will happen, like no snow. So all your roommates move out and you can't pay your rent. So we had a lot of that this winter. We have seen a 261% increase in requests for rent support in the last year. Wow. The other thing that we're seeing happen is the sale of the current unit by the owner. And they don't just, the new owner doesn't, they're gonna knock it down or they don't want to rent anymore. We also are seeing a lot of switches from long-term to short-term vacation housing because you can make a lot more money. So it is what it is. The other thing that we're seeing is that people who have had some of the lower renting places, when I say lower rent, that's $2,500, $2,700 a month, which is not low. They are, as people's leases are ending, they're not renewing leases and they're upgrading those apartments and jacking the rent up. So whatever, if we have low income housing, which we don't, but our lower income housing is rapidly turning into something else. Another issue that we see in terms of the housing is transportation. The loss of TARP Connect is really impacting people and they can't get to work and they can't, I mean, so if you're making $20 an hour, you can choose, do I have a car? Do I have a house? So we're seeing a lot of people who just don't have any way to get to work. And we're hearing pretty consistently that it's forcing people to leave the area. We can't.
To that, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can't ask.
No, and I forgot to say also, just again, trying to keep it short. We're going to hold all the questions until everybody has spoken. And then the board asks questions first. And then, so write it down what you want to ask. The executive participants get to ask their there, yes. So you might want to write things down if you have questions. Okay, go ahead.
So I think really for all of that, any of you are small business owners in this community, trying to hire somebody right now is a nightmare because they either can't live up here, so they're trying to get to work and with or without a car, just lost my train of thought, or you can't hire them at all because there's just not enough people here. So if you're looking for an hourly employee, good luck. I'm having a hard time. I'm hiring a bunch of them right now. I can't find them. So that's one. So those are the challenges that we're seeing really consistently. One of the things that we know is happening, we're getting to for people to try and get into these units. You're seeing 8 to 12 people in a 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom apartment. So they literally are 4, 5, 6 people in a bedroom. I wrote. There we go. Okay, so for our techniques, what we're doing, despite all the requests I've had to come work on the housing, all I can do is tell you what I'm seeing. I'm not a housing person, but that's your job. But what we can do, what we're doing to help is constantly mapping the environment. What is available? What's open? What's changing? You know, and that's done through social media. That's done through word of mouth. But we're constantly watching what's happening. Another thing that's been effective for us is development of relationships with property owners and landlords, so they give us a heads up when they've got something opening up. Also, when we have folks come in, perhaps maybe don't speak English and are saying, my sink is broken, we can help facilitate those conversations with the landlords or the property owners. The other thing that we do, so I wrote 2 checks today, short-term financial assistance to stabilize a family while they build a plan. So one time, they come in and say, my 2 roommates just left, I've got a $4,000 rent payment due in 2 days and I need a little time. So we'll cover the rest of the rent while they build their plan. And they'll sit with my team, build a plan, we'll talk about what do we need to do next. And quite frankly, if we go down to the next one, sometimes that involves really hard conversations about can you stay in the area? And we have helped more people than I want to admit move to Carson or Reno because they just can't stay here. So that's really tough, especially for those families who have kids who are, in the Incline schools, because that just upsets everything. And then the other thing that we're doing a lot of right now is assistance in finding roommates. So we're paying we're out there like, do you need a roommate? Do you need a roommate? And we're like matching people up. I feel like Yenta, so just putting people together and that has been helping. But again, that's that musical chairs option that we were talking about, which is just dicey. So, all right, was I 5 minutes?
That's great. I actually was giving you 6 because I'm hoping that on some of these problems, you can just say ditto. The next one I would like to hear from is Teresa Crimmins from Sierra Community House.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. Teresa Crimmins from Sierra Community House. And yes, Jody did talk about quite a few of the problems, so I won't repeat myself there. But so Sierra Community House is the product of the merger of 4 former nonprofits. So formerly Tahoe Safe Alliance, Project Mana, Family Resource Center of Truckee, and North Tahoe Family Resource Center. That's my kind of busy graphic there, but I really appreciated the question about the origin of your organization. And so I thought that was important to talk about. So kind of all told, we've been in the community for about 40 years. I've been in my position with Sierra Community House for 11 years. And I have with me today Elizabeth Ballman, who is our Director of Legal Assistance, Crisis Intervention, and Family Advocacy, and Myra Islas, who is our Integration Manager. So good people to know. And yeah, those stars on that map there are where we have offices. So we've got offices in Truckee, Kings Beach, and Incline Village. We provide family strengthening, crisis intervention, hunger relief, and legal services. You can go to the next slide, please. And I'll be super brief here because Jody kind of said a lot of it regarding kind of why people find themselves being housing insecure. But something also that when I talk to our staff about what are we seeing in Incline is evidenced by what you all were talking about just a moment ago, is the potential of building affordable housing, because as you know, right now, we don't have any tax credit, sort of affordable with a capital A housing in Incline. And then the other form of housing that we see in other parts of the region, in Kings Beach, Tahoe Vista, and Truckee, are mobile home parks. They are often an option for folks who are sort of priced out of other types of housing in the region. And then as Jody mentioned, overcrowding in rental homes is another sort of barrier to just, why people aren't finding housing specifically in Incline and Crystal Bay. So if you'll go to the next slide. Okay, so, and I didn't even know that Myra was going to be here, but there she is on our slide. Successful strategies. A big one is just really taking a strengths-based approach and being trauma-informed. So listening to folks, trying to really get an understanding of what is happening. And then going into housing retention and eviction prevention. Our sort of mode has been, if you are in housing, we want to try to help you keep it as much as possible, because once you lose it, often it's harder to get back in. So we also have a rent and utility assistance program, and there are a variety of grant funding sources with a variety of different types of criteria that we can apply in different situations. So some of those are income-based. Some of them are really geared towards victims of domestic and sexual violence. So we have different kind of programs that will provide for that emergency rent and utility assistance. And some of them will provide for sort of more of a longer term rental assistance. And then again, similarly, the working with the person who comes in on a plan, looking at the budget, having those hard conversations, talking about workforce development opportunities, doing some tenant education, reminding people what their responsibilities and rights are as a tenant, and then also try to bridge that relationship with landlords whenever possible. Sometimes it feels to folks like they're about to lose their housing, and then we can kind of come in, have a conversation with the landlord, work things out so that they continue their tenancy. And then, of course, as Jody mentioned, the other, I don't know if it's exactly successful from our standpoint of trying to retain our local workforce, but is when people relocate to another place where they can find housing that they can afford. I'll stop there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Doing great on the 5 minutes. He's doing great. Okay, Dick Jackson is the representative from the Sally Fund, which is out of St. Patrick's Episcopal Church. So Dick, explain.
Hi, I'm the vestry lead on the Sally Fund for St. Patrick's Church. And we have with us here today the real driving force in creating the Sally Fund. Claire Novak is sitting in the back there too, giving me some moral support. The Sally Fund was started by St. Patrick's because Sally was really the embodiment of an individual who wanted to help the community. And the way she helped St. Patrick's was after she died, she left her condo to St. Patrick's. And St. Patrick's said, the vestry said, we're going to take 10% of the value of her house, and we're going to invest that in the community. And in any way we saw to help, especially in the area of homelessness and housing. So we put a committee together and met with folks throughout the community to identify where the greatest need was. And we figured that by about November of last year, that the greatest need was that we could really help immediately with was to provide funds for keeping people in housing or helping them get into housing. And both of my colleagues here have talked about that what that problem is. So we took the seed money that the vestry had put towards this project and started raising some funds. Next slide, please. And we intend over the next several years to provide that seed money and raise additional funds to help both Tahoe Family Solutions and Sierra Community House deal with these issues. And it was important for us in our agreements with both entities to make sure that we didn't make it more difficult for them to help people. So we didn't put a lot of restrictions on how the money was to be used, as long as it was for those two purposes. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, there it is. We're continuing to raise funds this year, and the address of where to write a check and send it to is there on the slide. And if you put the Sally Fund in the memo line, it'll get to the right place. This year, we divided between the two organizations $55,000 to help with this issue. And we hope to increase that next year and get it going perpetually until this need no longer exists. On the back here, there's some handouts about the Sally Fund, picture of Sally, and the names of our community partners in working to put together the Sally Fund.
Okay, great, thank you. Chase Jandren, who is the executive something of operation. Yes, the head of operations of PlaceMate, which is a different kind of program. So Chase.
Yeah, thank you. So I work for PlaceMate. We're a Truckee-born company that has two different workforce housing programs. The one I'll focus on today is called Lease to Locals, which is what we operate in Washoe. So we started in Truckee about 6 years ago, then went to East Placer County, the city of South Lake Tahoe, and then Incline Village. And really what our model does is we focus on converting existing housing stock to new long-term rentals, specifically for local workers. We do that by partnering with the local jurisdiction, the city, the county, et cetera, to offer a one-time cash incentive to the property owner if they rent long-term to local employees. And I want to highlight that it's a one-time cash incentive. A lot of one big miscommunication is that it's a stipend or it's subsidized housing, and it's not. It is truly an incentive to get folks who might be on the fence about what to do with a vacant property, or they've been using their property as an STR. Here's an extra boost to get you to stop STRing and to rent long-term to local workers. This allows the local government to quickly address some of that missing middle component of housing. You know, we talked a little bit about AMI and how strict and rigid some of the, by necessity, those income limits have to be for capital A affordable housing. One of the benefits of this program is we can cater it specifically to whatever the needs are of the local jurisdiction. And of course, this was funded by Washoe County with remaining ARPA funds. ARPA funds were American Rescue Plan Act funds as a result of COVID. There was a leftover chunk of change. 19 different entities received some of these leftover funds, and we were one of those entities that received those funds. Next slide, please. And now when it comes to the challenges, we take a slightly different viewpoint as opposed to there just being a lack of housing. When we look at how many actual housing units there are, whether it's in Washoe County, in Incline Village, Crystal Bay, the Tahoe Basin, or any of the 15 vacation areas that we operate in, it's not necessarily that there's too few housing units. It's that we have seen them transition, the use of those properties transition over the years and decades, right? So 65% of Tahoe Truckee housing stock is held for seasonal and occasional use only. 2/3 of our housing is just used for that purpose. But the population growth is really modest. We saw a spike of population growth during COVID, but even that spike did not get us to the peak population that we saw between 2000 and 2005. And we have still added some, not a lot, but some units to the housing inventory. But the pain is felt is much more acute. So why is that? That's because since 2000, there's been a steady increase of homes that were either owner occupied or long-term rentals transitioning into and so we launched in Incline Village, Crystal Bay in February of 2025 with an 8-month onboarding period. And that was a requirement based on the funding parameters surrounding the ARPA funds. There wasn't a whole lot us or Washoe County could do about that. By the end of 2026, all of the program funds have to be accounted for and reported back to the federal government. So the county has got a couple months to wrap up all the compliance components, report back to the feds. And so we had to backtrack 12 months from that date, right? So the way the program works is the cash incentive is split into two parts. You get half up front and half at the end of the lease. So if somebody signs a 12-month lease, that second check, the lease has to start 12 months before October 1 of 2026. So the lease had to start by October 1, 2025. So we launched in February. That gave us an 8-month onboarding period. And then one of the challenges with the program in particular, that 8-month onboarding period with a hard stop is the first time we've done that in any of our programs. And that had a much bigger impact than we recognized. So we track reasons the property owners tell us that they don't end up participating. And the number of property owners who told us that they couldn't participate because the timing wasn't right, they couldn't make it, it wouldn't fit into their schedule, was 3 times higher than any other program we've ever run. And so that 8-month onboarding period really did have a big impact here for people who wanted to participate, but they couldn't because it didn't align with the schedule that they already had for their property. That combined with a significantly lower average grant amount in the other North Shore markets. We were anticipating something in line with what we've seen in Truckee for 6 years, in East Placer County for 4 years, at approximately $10,000 on average incentive per property. For Incline Village, it's less than half of that. The reason being is the average property that participates in Truckee and Placer County is a 3-bedroom house. The average property that participates in Incline is a 1-bedroom condo. And the incentives are paid by the number of quote qualified tenants, the number of local workers that are living in the property. So a much less average incentive per property. So there's still a lot of remaining funds in there that we were not able to allocate. Next slide, please. But the results that we did see were, I think, quite positive. We had 127 property owners express interest. So it's not for lack of interest in the community. 15 property owners did choose to participate. The delta there is what we call conversion rate, 15 out of 127. That's quite a low conversion rate for our programs. But again, that speaks to what I was saying earlier. People were saying, well, we already have commitments with our property for the next 8 months, so we can't get in yet. But that did house 28 locals. The average rent per property was just shy of $2,300. Average rent per bedroom, shy of $1,300. And I want to really point out the average household income and average adult income, because the community workshop that helped design the guidelines, there was quite a lot of conversation about what the appropriate AMI should be for this program. And there was some concern that the AMI was too high. And I was like, we have never seen any program come up against that AMI cap, and that held true here as well. The average adult income was only $53,000, and the average household income was $93,000, way, way under what the AMI cap was for this program. So all told, the total program cost was about $188,000. The average incentive per property, like I mentioned, is about $4,800, and the average incentive per person is just shy of $2,600. And I'll close with a question. Does anybody have any guess of what one affordable housing unit costs to build in Tahoe? It's over $1 million. So when we talk about where we want the money to go and like the quote ROI of this program, 1/5 of one unit went to housing 28 people. So we didn't see the results that we wanted to see out of this program, but the ROI on the program, I think, is still outstanding for the results that we did see. And I'll stop there.
Okay, very good. Awesome job. Thank you so much. Very concise and a lot of great info. So we'll start with questions from CAB members.
Are we not gonna do this?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I got.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was kind of drifting to the right. Reno Housing.
The deputy, not a
Deputy.
We'll wait till the slide
And
gets
this is-
there. And I am Heidi McKendry, Deputy Executive Director for the Reno Housing Authority. We do serve all of Washoe County, so including Incline Village and Crystal Bay. We were created in 1943, and we are the largest affordable housing provider in Washoe County. I'll let you skip to the next slide. There we go. Between our programs, 2/3 of our participants are those we serve are seniors or persons with disabilities. So a good chunk of those we serve are those that have that fixed income, limited income, and aren't able to pay full rent on their own. I'm not going to go into too much on what an MTW or moving to work agency is, but there are 37 of us, original moving to work agencies in the nation. That does give us some additional flexibilities. It gives us $0 more, but it does give us some additional flexibilities when it comes to requesting waivers from HUD. We'll go to the next slide. So the Housing Authority is broken down into 3 main categories, groups, programs, whatever you want to call it. The Housing Choice Voucher and our federal public housing programs. Those are our 2 federally funded by HUD programs that provide rental subsidies to low-income households. The Housing Choice Voucher, we currently have a little over 3,300 vouchers. Those are a mix between tenant-based and project-based. There's a little bit of difference between those 2, one being that the tenant has choice on where they live, tenant-based voucher. The other is a project-based voucher, meaning the voucher ties to a specific unit. And as long as that household lives in that unit, they are assisted. We also have special purpose vouchers. So those 3,300 includes vouchers that HUD has allocated for special populations, including veterans in our VASH program, also foster youth and things like that. We also have the federal public housing program. We currently have a little over 500 units of public housing. That was the very first affordable housing model that HUD used. And we own, manage, and maintain those sites. There are 6 complexes. Those all are located in Reno and Sparks. What happens with those, we receive a subsidy from HUD in order to operate those complexes. And then we offer rents that are at 30% of somebody's household income. So the rent that the client pays living in those units is dependent on their income and varies based on what that income is. Lastly, the Housing Authority owns over 900 units of, for lack of a better term, other affordable housing. Some of those are LIHTC properties, so we've received tax credits in order to build. That's a very common way to build and develop affordable housing. Some of them we've simply built over time and offer at lower rents. Again, all of those are located in Reno and Sparks. Our funding, I'm trying to go through. I don't want to say it again. So we'll go to the next slide. And so our funding overview, the 2 main programs that are funded by HUD, again, are the Housing Choice Voucher Program and public housing. In the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we receive an annual budget authority. Last year it was $32 million. We're seeing basically flat funding for that program. So with $32 million, we're able to serve roughly a little over 3,000 households with a rental subsidy in the private market. Some challenges with this are fluctuations in that annual budget authority. And what we're seeing this year is really no increase in what we're receiving in subsidy dollars or that housing assistance payment when we are seeing rents increase. So the amount of subsidy we're paying is going up when we're not seeing an increase in the amount of funding we're getting from HUD. The other program, federally funded program, is federal public housing. Again, those units that we own, manage, and maintain. We receive an operating subsidy. In fiscal year 26, we are anticipating $1.2 million to operate 508 units. That isn't a whole lot. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. And so What you may hear on the federal level, what we have heard for many years, is that HUD would like to see housing authorities get out of public housing. It's not a model that really works well for low income because we've got aging public housing stock. So these programs started in the 40s, 50s, and you're now seeing this housing stock 40, 50, 60 years old. So the capital needs on public housing is astronomical. And so the federal funding has not kept pace. And so what HUD would like to see is housing authorities move out of public housing, use some of the tools that they've provided in order to reposition some of those public housing complexes and move them under the voucher program, which has been more stably funded federally. So the housing authority is in the process of currently repositioning 2 sites. We had 8 public housing complexes. We now have 6 because 2 of them are currently being repositioned. That does take capital dollars. We have to do all of the capital improvements up front before we can convert that over to the housing choice voucher or the voucher model. So we're in the process of doing that. What we're seeing year over year, I think we're seeing this year at least an 11% decrease in our operating subsidy. So we're just seeing the writing on the wall that HUD and Congress are not going to continue to fund public housing. So we're moving more towards the voucher program as being our primary subsidy program. The other affordable housing complexes that we own, those 920 units, the income that we receive from those, and again, I'll preface and say all of those rents are affordable rents. They are below market rents, but any income we make from those helps support these other 2 programs because what we receive from HUD is not enough to run the voucher program or federal public housing. What happens to housing authorities across the nation is they need to have other activities that help support the federal programs that are not receiving enough funding. So we additionally have those 920 units. They are still affordable housing, and any income that we receive from those goes to offset the losses that we're seeing either in the voucher program and administering it or in the public housing program. I think I'm going to reiterate. We'll go to the next slide. There's more. Sorry, I know. I've seen as I could. Thank you. And so some of the challenges, and these are going to be specific more to utilization of the voucher program here. Obviously, public housing, because those units are located in Reno and Sparks. Folks, unless they're going to move to Reno or Sparks, aren't going to really apply here. It's the housing choice voucher program that would be able to be utilized here. I did a quick check on how many folks we have who have an address who are on our wait list, and it's an Incline or Crystal Bay address, and less than 5. And it's, and they don't really try. And so what we always try and tell people is apply, just apply. One, our wait lists move more quickly than most housing authority wait lists because of the way we run them. We like to deplete wait lists and then open. So we're moving people through and they don't sit on those wait lists for a really long time unless they don't reside in Washoe County. If somebody is applying and they do not reside in Washoe County, the likelihood of those folks getting assisted is pretty low. But if you live in Washoe County, we're going to exhaust that list and move people through. One of the other issues that we see again is the higher rents. And so in the voucher program, there are payment standards, basically the maximum subsidy that we can provide. Those are set by HUD. We set them as high as we possibly can, but with average rents at $3,500, our payment standard is not near that. So it's very challenging for people to utilize a voucher if they get one. So the voucher program is available, but it's still a challenge to use up here. Some of the things that we're trying to do to address those, the other issue we have is if the voucher program, if we don't have landlords willing to accept a voucher, we don't have a voucher program. And if a landlord is not willing to accept a voucher, and we have not seen a lot of appetite for landlords willing to accept vouchers, even if somebody got a voucher, they couldn't utilize it here. And so we do have a designated landlord liaison. She's going to be focusing some more time up here. What we encourage is that if anyone knows anyone who is a landlord and they want to just do something out of the goodness of their heart and really rent that unit to somebody who needs it, I know you all are looking for the same thing, but we are as well. And so if anybody is interested, they can contact us and we can talk about what that looks like for leasing to a voucher holder. So those are some of the things that we're kind of working towards on our end. I did want to just elaborate really quickly on the difference between the terms, because we talked about AMI and the difference between and kind of the terminology and semantics of affordable housing and workforce housing. And typically you will see workforce housing, that term used if you're looking at 80% AMI up to 120% AMI. Affordable housing, you're looking at 80% AMI and below. The folks who live up here and are working at your Starbucks and are checking you out at the grocery store are probably going to be 80% and below AMI.
So it's, we're calling it the wrong thing when we're talking about building.
Yeah, I think affordable housing is really what the term you're looking for.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you again. Awesome job, panel, and way to keep it in time limits. So we're doing well time-wise. We can go now to questions from the CAB members. Anyone? Okay, Chris Wood.
Thank you. Chris Wood, CAB. So listening to Jody and Teresa and
Heidi.
And Dick. You're all looking to promote or get people to stay in their housing or find them housing. Do you coordinate, or how do you coordinate, if you do, among yourselves so that you're not paying somebody to stay into this house and somebody else is also paying for it? How does that?
Well, I can answer that one real quick. We call. I mean, so before we write a check, we call these guys and go, hey, have you written a check for this person recently? And they say yes, and we go, okay, then we're out, but or if they say no, we haven't talked to that person, then we'll move forward. But then they have the name, so they know who we're serving. We try very hard not to double dip. We do have some really extreme circumstances where we might pay a month, and then I'll say to Teresa, hey, this one's bad. And she'll be like, we've got month number 2, so we'll do it that way. But that, I mean, to me, that's only happened like 2 or 3 times. It's not very often.
Are there some other coordination events that you need to conduct among yourselves? So do you have a kind of a hotline between yourselves?
We just have people. Nayeli, call the Sarah community. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's formal. I would love to see that formalize a little bit more, but at this point it's more just, what do you know, kind of back and forth calls. You want to add to that at all?
I think that would be great too. I'm thinking about how in Truckee, for a while we had sort of collaborative case management meetings with North Tahoe Truckee Homeless Services. So we could look to do something similar to that here, just to kind of really make sure that there's that robust collaboration, communication.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. You have another one, or you want?
Yeah, I do. Actually.
Okay.
Heidi, how much is your budget dependent on the federal dollars?
So the 2 main subsidy programs are low-income rent programs that we provide, so federal public housing and the voucher program, 100%, unless they don't cover everything, and then the housing authority covers it ourselves. And so those programs were designed to be subsidized by the by the federal government, that we would receive full funding for those and funding to administer those programs. And just over the years, we've not seen it happen.
So do you get funding from any other sources other than the federal?
No local or state tax dollars. We get no
contributions.
We're on our own.
Okay.
So we get the federal money, and that's why what we call those other affordable also our business activities. Because if we didn't have those, our other 2 programs would suffer. And housing authorities across the nation run into this problem, is because if you're solely funded by federal dollars, you're going to find yourself in a sticky situation at some point, because you've got people relying on you for a housing subsidy, and we've just not seen that support come, in the way of dollars year over year. And so housing authorities have had to be creative and figure out, how do we then still prop up these programs locally with our own money in order to make sure that we can continue to run them. And so our other projects, we've got some smaller LIHTC properties that we have And if there's cash flow from those, then those go to help offset what we're not getting for our public housing sites and things like that.
I have one last quick question. So do you have any activity up here in Incline Village, Crystal Bay right now?
Not right now.
Can I put my cab hat on and ask a question?
Sure.
Wait, what's looking like?
So our wait list is local Washoe County residents, we're about 4,000. And our current public housing and project-based voucher wait lists are open, and we've decided to keep those open. It does not help you guys up here because it's the voucher wait list that needs to be open for folks to be able to. What I can do is make sure that you guys all know when our wait list opens, so that you can get folks in there. Because we would love to get more people up here. It's gonna take clients applying, and then it's also gonna take a landlord who's willing to participate too. But we want to try and make it work. So.
We've been poking around about that.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a question. So the programs that are trying to help obtain housing in what I would call the open market. I am concerned about those because our market is so high and it goes up very quickly now and again with booms. You have something like, so I'm going back to your differentiation between public housing and other affordable housing. Okay. So other affordable housing to me sounds like it's in the open market, right?
Well,
And the vouchers are in the open market.
vouchers are in the open market, absolutely. Other affordable housing it's a hodgepodge for us. It's a lot of, it's complexes that we purchased 20 years ago.
Right.
Simply rent at less than market rate rents. It consists of small 9% LIHTC properties that we developed. And so those are set rents based on the funding sources that we use to develop those. So those are all, there's very different. And when you start to talk about affordable housing, there's a gazillion ways to do it. And so that other affordable housing category has a lot of those different ways in it, and all of them have their own little restrictions. And so we have to comply with those. But if you're talking about open market, that's the voucher, because it's the voucher, the landlord, and the housing authority providing the subsidy to that landlord. So those are used on the open market.
And so here, where our market is so hot, well, I mean, hot and cold goes and comes, but relatively speaking to everywhere else in the area, it's always hot. That's why the vouchers could never really work here. The old elementary school site, and I realize I personally just said it's off limits, so I'm cheating. But if we were to build something there, would that be good old-fashioned public housing? It would not be.
No. So public housing is a dying breed.
Okay.
Really, there is not a lot of new public housing development happening. So public housing is its own animal that is specifically subsidized by HUD. And there are a lot of better ways to do affordable housing now than that. And so any development that happened up here at that site would likely include some layering of tax credits and maybe some other funding source, definitely some other funding sources. But it would be income restricted. So folks who live there would need to meet those income requirements. And then the rents would also be restricted.
Okay. So we're not famous for gosh, I can't speak tonight. We're not famous for being able to enforce our deed restricted properties up here. I know that TRPA has a very, very small staff and does like 1 out of 10 every 10 years or something. I'm making those numbers up, but I'm not far off. It's a problem. So counting on deed restricted is not going to be great. Is that what this is? And so we have to find a better way. Go ahead.
By definition, it would be deed restricted because of the funding sources used to develop it. And who would be enforcing those deed restrictions?
Yes.
would be the people who provided the money to build it. And they have a vested interest in making sure that it meets all of those requirements. So it would be if there were home consortium money in there, it would include, there would be oversight from a Washoe County Home Consortium. If there were tax credits in there, it would be that a housing division would have, would be eyes on and watching. Your investors are eyes and watching.
Okay.
So it would not be local oversight. It would be a broader oversight.
Okay.
Technically, the property would be deed restricted. It would be required to be affordable.
So this would be a private developer of sorts, but under the auspices of the various things that you just named, which would incentivize them to make sure that the deed restrictions are honored in that property.
Yeah, there's a lot of oversight when it comes
Okay,
to housing that.
that's interesting. Okay, all right. Let's see. Well. Oh, Jody, I wanted to go back to your thing on mapping the environment. So in my mind, I'm picturing a spreadsheet with lots of statistics. So
No, it's nothing that complicated. It really is just paying attention. I mean, like, this sounds silly, but I am a religious reader of the Incline Village Facebook page because things go, hey, I got a room, I'm like, write that down, so we're just kind of constantly tracking. And then the clients that we work with, we know when they're leaving a unit. So we'll be able to say, oh, we know somebody who's getting ready to move out. So you can slide people in. It's very unscientific and informal, but because there's just not enough I could make a spreadsheet, but there would be like 4 things on it. So. Yeah, it tends to be, and it has to be fast. I mean, when we hear about it, it's like, boom, we got to get that person in because they don't stay on the market.
I think it was 9,400 housing units in Incline Village and maybe Crystal Bay too.
I wonder how many of them are sitting empty.
Well, according to your stats,
Yeah.
a bunch of them. And when I used to come up here and visit my son before I moved here, I used to say, what a waste, all these empty houses. Now that I'm worried about evacuation, I go, what a godsend, these empty houses. So I'm kind of on the line on trying to fill every place, but getting some for workforce housing obviously is a need we need to meet. Anyone else on the board come up with something now, Kevin?
Yeah, so question for you. I think when I moved here, the numbers were like 45, 55 second homes versus year round. Do you know if that's changed with the population?
45, 50, what do you mean?
45% of houses were year round, 55%
gotcha.
per second.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics. That 65% number that I quoted is not a Washoe specific number. That is a recently published Basin and Truckee number that just came out. That's the latest number that was just published last month from a housing study. So that's the most recent data that's available.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's not.
And is the placement program over at this point?
Onboarding of new programs is now we're just of new properties is now we're just in the compliance phase, which means that we're making sure that both tenants and property owners are in compliance with the program requirements, that they can receive the second check at the end. And sometimes tenants, move out, whether it's, for whatever reason, and we have to requalify new tenants to replace them.
Since I know you hinted at some of these, but wave the magic wand, what would have you done differently or do again to make it work?
Yeah, really it was the timing constraints, but that was outside of, the county's control, outside of our control. But every other pilot program that we've done lasts for 1 year, and we've always had good results. It has always extended for a second year. This time, and our busiest time of year is always late fall, early winter, as people are preparing for ski season. Everyone wants to move before the snow falls, before the holidays. Once November hits, activity slows way down. So we had to choose. Because we had that limited time frame, we had to choose, do we want to try to capture the winter before or the winter after? And so our attempt to thread the needle, I don't think was the most effective, but it just was the way that it was.
Are there any other programs like yours?
No.
Right now? I remember there was one in Truckee for a while.
Well, that's our program.
The one that does the seasonal housing rentals as well? Or am I thinking of something else?
Well, lease to locals can be a seasonal lease.
Okay,
You get
yeah.
12-month or a 5-month minimum. And the seasonal lease has a significantly lower incentive. Yeah.
Okay, Roxana, and I have a question again. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so tax credits, what's the situation with those for housing up here? Building new housing?
Situation.
Yeah, tax credits, what are they? How much are they?
Oh.
It's a big question.
So it is a big question. So there's different types of tax credits. They would be available for a developer who, if the project worked, there's just a lot of factors that go into affordable housing development. There are 9% tax credits and 4% tax credits. 9% tax credits are competitive, harder to get. 4% are getting more competitive here in Nevada. I'm not exactly sure how to answer your question. They would be available and an option for affordable housing development up here. It would just need everything to kind of fall into place in order to make that work. And tax credits is only one piece of the pie when it comes to affordable housing development. So that would be, it's a big piece, but it's only one piece. So all the other pieces would need to fall into place as well.
So do you mean that there's other types of subsidies available?
There's a lot of different types of funding that get layered. So a lot of people will talk about affordable housing development as this lasagna, because not one source pays the full cost of developing affordable housing. You need this funding source, this funding source, this funding source, this funding source to make the whole project happen. So that's why it doesn't happen quickly, because you have to get all of those things in place before you can start your project. So it doesn't happen overnight. It's not quick, but it does happen and things move. It's just getting everything in line and making sure that that project is going to actually work and pencil at the end of the day. And it's going to work for the community. So
are those 9%, 4% of the property cost, the project cost?
no, those have to do with what the return is that goes to the investor.
So that's ROI on the property cost.
I can't speak your terminology there, but that's important to the investor. It's important to have where you could get those as well, but it's more important to the investor.
Yeah, I'm just doing some math in my head, trying to figure out if those subsidies are even enough to offset the additional, zoning and all the other crap you have to go through to try to build it.
Yeah, I think the key is that they're looking at developers, and developers who develop affordable housing know what they're doing, and they'll look at all of the aspects and make it happen if they can make it happen. Absolutely, we'll do what they can to make it happen.
Can I
It's their
make
job to make it
Yeah,
happen.
please, open to all of you.
So I worked with Related California, who built the Sugar Pine Village affordable housing project in South Lake, and Mia Kang, who is taking the lead on that as the developer. The way she put it was, when LIHTC, the low income tax credits, came out in the 90s. In the 90s, just having those tax credits was enough to make a project pencil. Then in the 2000s, it took LIHTC plus donated land to make it pencil. Then after 2010, it takes LIHTC, donated land, and significant financial contribution from the local community in order to make it pencil. Like, it just gets more competitive and more difficult to build.
Okay, that's perfect analogy.
Yeah, that is helpful.
And then, so following up on that, then, when these projects are done with these tax dollars, does that create any Davis-Bacon requirements or anything like that? Try to figure out how you get to that $1 million number you were mentioning.
Yeah, if there's federal money in there
There's Davis-Bacon, Jesus. Okay, that's a big problem. Okay, and then.
So I can elaborate a bit more where that $1 million.
Yeah, please. Yeah, that's
So
where I was going to go.
Because those tax credits are so competitive, it's not just about building a unit. You have to typically demonstrate some additional community benefit. So things like meeting center, job placements, training, things like playground, parks, things like that. And so the bigger the complex gets, if you want to take advantage of economies of scale, you have to have a bunch of really cool community features, which then also drives the per unit cost up.
Classic fail, like with fail by regulation, by design. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then with that kind of numbers, how is the affordable housing being built around the country? Like, I know you can do prefab stuff, you can do mobile units, you can do taller and smaller, right? That's the basic solution. And usually it's the old stuff, right? Because the new stuff moves people out of the old stuff. Maybe not so much here. What's the state of the art there? Kind of like our $7 million bathroom that should be 250,000 if you order it for that.
Yeah, I think it depends on what your developer is looking at. I mean, I think, your stick built is more or less, we've looked at a lot of different options. And I think it just depends on what's going to work best in the environment you're in, the size you're trying to build, the style you're trying to build. We're using a lot of steel for one development versus more lumber. But everything has its own kind of nuances. We haven't yet found prefab to be any less expensive than.
It's not gonna be where the land's expensive, right? Like.
Well, land is a huge piece of it, absolutely.
That's the piece, right? So you figure like 5x3 at least here or something, to make it affordable.
Yeah, the land is a big piece of it.
Yeah, okay. I think my last one here. We covered your Davis Bacon then on your housing buckets that you manage.
It depends on where that money comes from. We've got unrestricted money. There is also, it depends on where it comes from. And when you're looking at a lasagna to get a layering of funding, one of those might end up being federal, which would then trigger it. You might be able to make it work without federal money. It just depends on what that lasagna looks like. What each layer, where it comes from.
Great, thank you. A lot of good details there. Appreciate it, all of you.
Okay, Roxanne, I have another quickie. This is back to Chase. Why was Incline Village the last place chosen for placemate in Tahoe?
Well, it wasn't the last place chosen. There's three things that we typically need to order in order to launch. We need community support, political will, and funding. And it doesn't matter what order those three things happen, but those are the three things that we need. And I think they're, from some of the efforts that Tahoe Prosperity Center had spearheaded with their housing study initially, it was clear that there was some community support. Commissioner Hill was very active in pushing the political will. And then once it was determined that there were leftover ARPA funds, that provided the funding, and that was kind of the missing piece.
Okay, but we did come in at the end, which is part of the reason that the window was so compressed and why it was not a great
other program. Sorry,
success.
Yeah.
So you're telling me why it could have gone earlier. I'm really interested in knowing what did we do that we need to address that took longer for us and so we didn't get to take as much advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was simply a timing, a funding issue in identifying where those funds come from. In virtually every other market that we operate in, there is some component of what TOT, transient occupancy tax or something like that is what it's called in California.
Right.
My understanding is that in Nevada, you're not allowed to utilize those funds for programs like this.
Right.
So I think that was a big hurdle, and the ARPA funds kind of came in at the last minute to be utilized. But everywhere else, it's how it's viewed as a big contributor to the problem is STRs. So TOT is collected at the time of STR. So let's use some of the money from what's causing the problem to help fix the problem.
Right.
But that just wasn't an option.
Okay, that's a good on the to-do list then. Thank you. All right, anyone else? Denise?
I just have a quick one. Heidi, I just wanted to confirm. So not talking about development, talking about existing properties. There's a landlord. He's willing to accept a voucher. Are there any tax or other incentives, or they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart?
We sell the program by saying it is guaranteed rent. So our portion's gonna hit their bank account the first of the month regardless. And there's also some additional security in that we're gonna come out and look at the unit, periodically. Make sure that the unit it meets housing quality standards and things like that. But our big push is, it's the guaranteed rent. And we also hit hard, it's the goodness of your heart. You're trying to do something right for the community.
Because your voucher is under market value.
It depends. We would need to see what would work based on payment standards up here. And because that's the drawback of Incline and Crystal Bay being in Washoe County, is that you've got the bulk of the county who has a very different structure. And so your AMI is your AMI. And your fair market rents are your fair market rents. And our payment standards are set based on fair market rents, which are set by HUD. And they don't care that Incline is in Washoe County. So our payment standards are set based on those fair market rents. We would just have to see if there's a landlord where maybe it's a small 1-bedroom, maybe it's a studio, and the rent would be set at such a point where they could actually get the full rent that they're asking for between the subsidy and the tenant's portion, that hopefully they would get the full portion they were asking for, the full rent.
Okay, Mark?
2 quick questions. First of all, the properties that you own and manage, you must have staff maintenance. Is that like a small army?
It is a small army, and they are mighty. They are a good group. Yeah, they work hard.
Having managed a property very briefly here before we just decided it wasn't tenable. That's close to a pun. We discovered it's a 3-bedroom that we had here. It really didn't net out to be a windfall, to be any different than if we rented it full time or we sold it and just simply invested the money. We were so overwhelmed with taking care of that property and making sure in a controlled environment that everybody was playing nice. Second, real quick, on my way into a barber shop on Mill Street and Liberty, there is a little group of really brightly painted small homes. Is that part of your project?
That's actually not those. I think they are I think they call it the tiny village. Tiny village.
Yeah, they're dandy little
Yeah,
homes.
they're cute little things. I think they are privately owned but I don't believe they're leased, but I think they're privately owned. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, they're cute. I drove by them the other day too. I was like, oh, those are cute. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Let's open it up to folks in the room. Oh,
For,
okay.
Park one for me.
Well,
I'll throw out the general question here for you guys. Here's the hypothetical. You've got an owner of a second home. And maybe it's a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, whatever, right? They want to maybe rent it, but they're concerned about, either the STR is not going to work out or the tenant might be sketchy or whatever. And these are all the real friction things. Years ago, I remember doing a survey and asking why people don't rent their homes who are second homeowners for Truckee. Might have actually been with you guys. And so what's the state of the art today? Like, what does any of you guys have? What would you tell the person? What are the options? What would help remove some of that friction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, we found that similar to what Heidi was just talking about, just simply saying, we're here, we're working with this person, and we are going to be paying, whether it's 1 month of rent or ongoing, that assurance of rent being paid on time can be an incentive unto itself.
Okay.
I think the other thing that I've talked to Judge Melissa, who was on the phone, I don't know if she still is, but really making sure that landlords know their rights, that tenants know their rights and responsibilities, and that's super clear up front, so they understand what are the consequences if this doesn't happen, on both sides. I mean, a landlord can't kick somebody out because they had a domestic violence situation. That's illegal, but it happens, so there's just both sides need to be aware of what the law is and what they need to know.
I'd agree with Jody as well, is that I think when it comes to the voucher program, nothing limits the landlord's ability to evict. If there's a violation of the lease, they still have the right to do that. But we also want to make sure that our tenants know their rights as well. So it's really no different in that aspect, landlord-tenant relationship.
So removing some of the uncertainty around the entry, the exit, the whole, that usual thing.
I mean, that's largely what we do. We talk to property owners all day, every day, addressing those concerns. And we found is the vast majority of property owners that express interest in the program are not necessarily trying to maximize the value of their property, to maximize the return. What their concern is the ski home that's been in their property for 2 generations that is just sitting there empty. Their concern is going to get destroyed by ski bumps. We hear it all the time. And, we point out, it's like, well, this incentive, you can think of this incentive as an extra large security deposit that you get whether there's damage or not. And then I point out that in, over 800 homes across 5 states, knock on wood, I'm not suggesting for a second it can't or won't happen on a long enough timeline, but we've yet to have an eviction in any of the properties. So I think the fear of some of these things that happen when they happen is awful, but they don't happen as frequently as people think they do.
Yeah, I think Placer County actually looks into insurance, one of the incentives, actually.
Yeah.
Which is which the Airbnb and so on has figured out is really important to getting people to rent. That might be interesting. Very affordable compared to like a cash subsidy too. If those are the real numbers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Aaron?
So I'm not sure where.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Okay.
Us.
Yeah, you can kind of face that. You can 40-degree angle.
Aaron Vanderbilt for the record. I just want to share my experience growing up here my entire life, 44 years. And I want to say that, I came from a working class family, just trying to build myself up with my dream of having a non-HOA home here. And so like I can share my interesting story about time, but so hands down, my experience here, the biggest problem is growing wealth inequality. And I honor everybody for their efforts that are doing what they can here, everybody on the bottom. But I really think that, that those are great things, but we need to fix this growing wealth inequality and tax structure because, I remember when the placemate came to this meeting and spoke a few months ago, and I asked, where's that money coming from? And it's basically taxpayers for the most part in one way or the other. And I'm totally against my tax dollars just going to feed somebody with an empty house. I don't really like, I have a lot of friends. I've seen probably hundreds of people, just about everybody in my life move to Reno and Carson and beyond, a lot by no choice. And, it's interesting because I have wealthy friends, I have very poor friends, and it's a complicated situation. But, it's hard to have sympathy for somebody with a second home here that's like complaining that I need to rent it out to hang on to my home when I just want one home in the place that I was born. And so, and I have like some wealthy friends that have a lot of land here that I like to see protect that land. And when they die, then if the taxes were against them, then that land ended up going into the hands of developers in one way or the other. So, I mean, it's a complicated issue, but I know that what we're seeing, especially the past 20 years, is just an explosion in wealth inequality and like all the empty homes that are growing and just sitting there empty. And for all the solutions that we've been talking about at this meeting, I still don't see a positive future. And I hate to say it, but I don't. And, I think that I know there needs to be a room for every level. I was able to stay here because of rentals, working my way up. I know have friends that work their way up from living in mobile homes. And so there needs to be a room for everything, but just the explosion in so everybody's passive income now, the way the tax system's set up, I've worked very hard in my life. My family's worked very hard. And, we can just barely stay, people can barely stay here, where people that have maybe not even worked that hard, they just inherit wealth and they're making exponentially more passive income than we could even dream of competing. And then they buy up land because of the tax structure that they can just sit on that land like a bank account. So that's where I would like to see people focus a lot of the effort in. And we see it extreme here in Incline, and then it moves down to places like Reno and Carson. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Jeff?
I can talk loud enough right here, or I can stand up. Please, what do you want me to do? Stand up?
Yeah, you have to be near enough to the microphone to be.
Okay. Microphone here.
Needs you. Come up.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Let's do the recording. Well, I'm impaired because I can't hear. I think, just as an observation, I can't.
Jack, say your name.
Jack Dalton, 10-year residents of Incline. And an observant, all these things are saying, and this is really great, all of what they're saying, and I support including what Aaron says about the tax structure. But we have a problem that can be addressed very easily and very quickly. Get rid of the SDRs. That's the start. 95% of Washoe County's SDRs are in the Incline. Now, New York City, where I spent 45 years, they got rid of the SDRs about 4 or 5 years ago. Gone. Madami, who's just the recent election for mayor, the biggest part of people were the younger people that were less rent challenged. And New York City has housing that's regulated over 1 million units. But they got rid of the SDRs. If we can get rid of the SDRs, because there's a lot of people. That's why the middle school is emptying out. And potentially is going to be closed. I mean, I don't have any insight, but it's been talked. I'm not saying that I have insight that it's going to happen, but it's definitely the population. Why? Because the people who have moved have children and they can't afford the rent. The rent is insane for a working population. And then there's Ann Nichols, who's done for North Tahoe, whatever it's called. I talked to her a lot. I went to a meeting where there was probably 200, at least 200. And they're talking about the development of 450 feet of development. Then the problem, which is what you're addressing, is affordable versus achievable housing. And so I leave it at this. Kings Beach, the median income is $65,000, which is what's similar to what one of the numbers are up here. Placer County has 130,000. So it depends on where you take your numbers. But we have to get rid of the SDRs. I mean, that's what Rhonda has been working hard. She made a comment out, and it's all very quiet about this. People, SDRs, we're not going to talk too much about it, but this is what this town, city should do. And then we could maybe gain some population back. Maybe.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else in the room? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Sherry Masters. I'm a local real estate broker, so that probably makes me a bad person to start with when I'm here. I'm also president-elect of our. Yeah. I'm also president-elect of the Board of Realtors. But I want to talk about a little bit about short-term rentals, because I understand your concern. I think it's frustrating and it can be scary. But last night I was at Rosewood, and everyone around me at the tables around me were vacationing here and staying in a short-term rental. And they spent a lot of money in that restaurant, because I know what we spent, and we didn't even have alcohol. So you can imagine the people who are, spending money. And what I'm concerned about is if we eliminate all short-term rentals, we're also eliminating a portion of our income in our town. We have restaurants, we have stores, we have retail businesses, and those people will suffer if no one's coming to Incline, because we have, the Hyatt, which is more expensive than a short-term rental, and we have the Lodge, which is tiny, adorable, but not a lot of rooms. So if those short-term rentals are correctly permitted, they're not having wild parties, they're doing what they're supposed to do. If they weren't short-term rentals, I would doubt that they would be long-term rentals. I believe that if they were not short-term rentals, they would be empty. So I think targeting the empty properties makes more sense, like what you're doing, targeting the empty properties rather than targeting the short-term rentals, because those people who are here on vacation are spending money in our community. And I think it's really important for everybody. So.
Yes.
No.
Sorry. Anyone else in the room? Yes, ma'am.
Sandra Richards and I have been in Incline Village since 1978. I'm a resident here. First of all, I want to thank you guys for bringing these treasures to us today. And Heidi, correct? And Chase. Some of the things you said really resonate for me because I'm a child of parents who lived in public housing after World War II. So that's part of America. Next, there are all these words that are used, like affordable housing. What were the other terms that you were using? Workforce housing. We have had workforce housing in Incline Village. It happened in the 60s. You guys know TOPA, which is across the street from Wells Fargo. That was done by people from San Francisco to house Boise Cascade construction. Right?
Yeah, I've been here since 68.
So she knows all about this, and correct me if I'm not wrong. And I think, okay. We have had a trailer park here. That trailer park is now, well then and still is on College. Right now, on that trailer park sits condos that are at least $3 million each. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to say, I hope you can make the connection because I'm going to go out there. All right. Here's what happened. 15 years ago, 5 men, there were no women at the table, no Heidis. Okay. And they would meet. They were the 1%ers. I don't know how they were friends from around the United States. And they predicted that in America, at some time, we are going to have a workforce, but they fully expected that some of us, maybe more of us, we're going to get checks in the mail. And they fully expected that the wealthy of this country is going to finance the rest of the country. Wild idea. It's scientific. I mean, I'm just pushing that out there because the next thing I want to say is the model does not exist. That the model that we need is not the model that exists. And what we're going to need to have is we're going to have the counties, the federal government. Elon Musk is willing to pay for TSA employees. This sounds like a crazy idea, but I connect it to these guys 15 years ago that came up with this thought that when I heard it, I went, that is insane. Not too far away though. Okay. What I think is going to happen that gives me great hope is because of this.
You need crap.
Okay. I don't have great hope because I got to leave.
All right, anyone else in the room? All right, online, and Alexander, I cannot see the full list, so I do not know.
I don't have anyone online who has a hand raised.
Okay, nobody online, really. All right, thank you then. As we wrap up this, the conversation.
Oh, Roxana, sorry.
Oh, of course.
I did want to know, earlier on there was a comment by Tim Garvey. He said, any opportunity for university land, forest land, city or state land to be used for workforce housing, what's the local municipality willing to help with in order to support this need for the community to benefit from?
Okay, I can answer some of that. The Forest Service lots are only for the Forest Service. They could ostensibly build housing for the Forest Service on some of those lands. In particular, they own a land across the street from the high school. They own part of that. The other part is the school system. What else do they list? Oh, state land. The forest lots in between houses are there legislatively, and I hope this stays, because we have to have sufficient forest to filter the water before it gets into the lake, or we don't have a blue lake anymore. So that's relatively sacrosanct. The school owns a little bit of property. That's the one that's across from the high school. They own the property that is the middle school. So if that closes down, that's a possibility at some point in the future. Where else is there land? That's pretty much it. Washoe County owns a couple of little lots on Country Club, but it's not really available for, when I've talked to them, they said, no, we're not doing anything there. Could change in the future. So they're very limited. If you want to chase that down, on the Washoe County website, and you'll just have to find it, is a study of housing, Washoe Tahoe housing needs that was done in 2021. That's an excellent study. It has a lot of statistics and tells you the land and all that kind of stuff. So you can go to that one, Tim.
Yeah, let me
anything
say
else?
that real quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
there's no shortage of land around here. The challenge is building on it, right? It's that simple.
Yeah.
And also, to the point earlier, yeah, part of that is like the SDRs actually compete with lodging. So when you don't have lodging, when you lose the Calneva, when you lose the building, that's what actually forces
Yeah,
the.
and IFGID has land. And IFGID, as I understand it, has at least floated the idea of building housing for IFGID employees, and they are either our first or second employer in the area. So that's possibly out there. Yes, ma'am. You have another question? Okay.
I have a very quick comment.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Claire Novak. I want to say thank you to everybody interested in this issue. And because you're here, I want to point you to the IVCBA Housing Committee. Chris is part of that committee with me. It's a citizen committee that its purpose is to educate, convene the stakeholders who care about this issue and try to move things forward that'll make a difference here. You can go to the IVCBA website, look up the housing committee and see the different work groups. One's going to be addressing this old IES site, but there are other ones that talk about programs and bringing landlords to the table who's interested.
He wasn't wrong in saying that there will be funders in the future who want to fund these things.
That's right.
And Duffield we jumped over a dollar to save a dime when we said, sorry, Mr. Duffield, we don't want your money.
So I'll just go to the point. If there's surprise that people care about this issue in Incline Village, Crystal Bay, let's wake them up to know that we do care. And you can be part of this committee. I encourage you to join us.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I want to close this just by mentioning to everybody that I have been living in government subsidized housing my entire life because I have been able to take the mortgage interest tax deduction. Okay. And so when you start thinking about helping some other people, just remember that you were sort of first in line. So just sorry if went preachy there for a moment. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic, which is the neighborhood housing development hub.
No, that's not good.
Alexandra.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. Alexandra for the rec. We're going to walk through the neighborhood development hub.
Okay.
So
Head and release the panel now if the guys need to go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Okay, Alexandra, back to you.
yeah, no problem. So I did want to note that the neighborhood development hub does have a few upcoming events. They're all regarding, or not all of them, but most of them are regarding the Equine Business Code update. That is occurring on a few different dates and times. So we have 3/25, 3/26, 3/30, and then two dates in April. So you have plenty of opportunities to provide input on that update. And there is also a mix of both online as well as in person. So if anyone's interested, those affect the entire county because it is the entire Equine Business Code update. There's an additional one, but it is in District 5. The other update that I wanted to provide is regarding how to access the new agendas for the Washoe County Citizen Advisory Board, sorry. And I'm going to stop sharing real quick because I need to switch over my screen. And we'll pop back into it. All right. So can you guys see my screen here? It's the Washoe County main webpage.
Yeah.
Okay. So at washoecounty.gov, it'll take you to our main webpage under How Can We Help You? We have a couple of different options here, as well as these tabs here, which will remain on this main webpage. So you can access the CAB agendas from two different areas. The first is going to be our boards and committees. So if you click into that link, it will take you to a list of all of our board and committees in alphabetical order. You can scroll down to Incline Village Crystal Bay, and that will take you to our main Citizen Advisory Board webpage. From here, if you click on the meeting calendar and agendas, that will take you to the Incline Village new hub where all of the agendas will be posted. Some background information, the reason that we are hosting it here on this area is a program called Insight, which is a product of Granicus through their Registrar module. And so what that does is that makes digitally accessible agendas automatically through this process. And so because the DOJ ruling is coming down and comes into effect in April, we are required to have all of our documents online accessible, which includes all of our agendas, which is one of the largest PDFs, largest creation of PDFs on our website. And so we're trying to remediate that currently. The other way to be able to access that same page is by going to, sorry, I have to stop share one more time because that always blocks my tab at the top. Same thing on going to the Washoe County webpage. Let me share one more time. Okay, so same thing on the same Washoe County webpage on the main page. You can also go to Commission Agendas, and that will take you directly to the Insight page that I had showed you. The only thing is it will revert back to the board or committee that you were on originally, or it will take you to the BCC. Those are the default ones. So from here, you can drop down the body name. And then again, these are in alphabetical order and click down to Incline Village or Crystal Bay. And that will pop up the agendas and information for that meeting. So when minutes are available, those will be posted here, as well as a video. Once that's posted on YouTube, it'll be a link over here as well. And then clicking into the agenda will populate the agenda that you guys all have in front of you, as well as an accessible agenda that we had talked about before. Otherwise, I do not have any additional updates.
Oh.
Sorry, I think I lost you guys. Oh, there. Okay.
So Alexandra, the agenda is not going to be listed on the calendar anymore? Is that correct?
Which calendar are you referring to?
Well, I go to Incline Village Cab and it says 2026 and I click on that and then I click on March. It used to show me the agenda, so I can't get it that way anymore. I have to go this other direction.
Correct. It won't be listed on that page. That's through a separate. It's a Cascade, our hosted website.
All right, thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us, and I'll go home and practice so I can tell everybody because it's going to be confusing for a while. Okay, Alexandra, is that it?
I believe so. We don't have any board and commission openings currently, so that's my update.
Okay, so I did mention that we have the CAB opening. All right, we have the approval of the minutes. These are the February minutes. I will move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. Okay.
Mark seconding.
All right. Oh, thank you, Mark.
You know,
All right. And then last general comment. All right. Yes, ma'am.
So patient.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Natasha Lakazich. I'm the new Director of Operations.
I'm sorry, you're going
Can you hear
to
me?
stand close to this microphone and you have to say your name slow enough that people can hear it.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Natasha Lukaswich. I'm the new Director of Operations at Incline Village Community Hospital. And I just wanted to introduce myself because Ellen, who was in this role for decades, has retired. I'm here for the community. Thank you. I think Denise, you mentioned in the beginning about the true north that Tahoe Forest system is looking for. It's called 5,000 Voices. I know we lost some of you, but there's actually a listening tour that is happening this week at Happy Tears from 11 to 1. And then April 1st at Alibi from 4 to 6. So that'll be your opportunity to see a lot of our system leaders. And they really do want to hear from everybody in our community and what we can do. And some of you, if you have not visited our facility or know, we have walk-in clinics, expansion with cardiac services, pediatrics. We have a 24 ER. We're having great success with the walk-in clinics. So we're just here to serve all of you. We want to do collaborative with behavioral health staff. We have behavioral MPs upstairs and great primary team. PAs, and so I have an open door. I'm happy to listen and connect and collaborate with all of you. So thank you for your time.
Resource. I thought I recognized you.
Yeah, I'm there every day. I'm a 24/7 servant, so I'm here for all of you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, Teresa?
Yes, can I do it from here? Yeah. Okay. So Teresa Crimmins, I just wanted to share with everybody in talking about affordable housing, the ways to build housing. Related is the developer that Chase mentioned. On April 2nd at North Tahoe High School, they're going to have an open house for their Dollar Creek Crossing development. It's on the California side, but it is in the basin, so maybe some relevance and some opportunities to talk to developers about how they lasagna their money.
Who is that developer?
It's related. So the word related is the name of their developer. And I believe they also did the one in Kings Beach.
Thank you.
FYI.
All right, that's it. Move to adjourn. All in favor? Yay. All opposed? You're out. Thank you. We're adjourning at.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again.
See you, Dick.
37. Okay.
It sounds like the Marla's initiative to get seniors together is going to be well received.
Well, you know what? I didn't know that when I said, yeah, look at the senior program, all of a sudden he's gonna get legs really fast. So I gotta figure out how to just kind of
Alexandra?
not get over our skis.
Yes.
I think we had 16 people in attendance who were not on the committee or on the cab.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Yes.